welcome to my second tag of this week. I'm a little late in filming this. I usually film the day before. I'm filming the day of, and this is Thursday. And I want to do the 26 random questions tag. This tag is created by David Murphy over at his channel. If you haven't checked out David's channel, you should go check him out. He has a lot of interesting things to say about, well, all kinds of things. And my goodness, is he a smart fellow. And just his readings on World War II and economics and economic theory just blow me away, and I always learn something when I watch his channel. But here he just decided to make a tag just asking 26 random questions about you, which you can answer about yourself. And so I thought I would do this tag because it looked like fun. I saw Steve Donahue, I think, did the tag. I saw David's tag. I've seen somebody else's right now. I can't remember. So I'm just going to go through, and for the most part, I did read the questions ahead of time, and I do have some answers ahead of time. So this is not just completely off the cuff. So question number one: what was your most recent YouTube rabbit hole? Sheetrocking. I have in my garage from last winter. I had sheetrock damage from when a pipe burst. And we couldn't get anybody to come out and fix it, and for a long time I just put it off, and it's getting cold again, well, for here, getting cold again, and so I need to get it done. So I've been looking at videos of people, particularly hanging sheetrock in the ceilings, because that's where I really need to do it the most, and so I've been doing that, and looking at videos of sheetrocking has led me to other kind of home repair videos, so that's kind of my most current YouTube rabbit hole. I know that's fascinating, sheetrocking. Anyway, prompt 2: what song is currently stuck in your head? This is a good question, and I think if I were going to pick the song that's currently stuck in my head right now, what would it be? Oh, the song that's currently stuck in my head right now would probably be "Let It Be" or Get Back. I watched all 9 hours of the Beatles Get Back documentary made by the guy whose name just Peter Jackson, made by Peter Jackson, the Lord of the Rings movie guy, and I really enjoyed it. I'm probably going to talk about it a little bit in my Saturday Hodgepodge, but one of those Beatles songs is stuck in my head. I think the Beatles were some kind of evil geniuses for being able to get songs stuck in your head, and I don't really care if you like the Beatles or not. Feel free to share that opinion here with me, but you know, I think not liking the Beatles is just being kind of, or you can not like them, but I think hating on the Beatles is just kind of like, you know, one of those things that people like to do now, which doesn't necessarily make any sense. Prompt 3: what kind of music do you listen to the most? The most. Okay, so I think I mentioned this before, but since I've retired, I've kind of tried to take over all of the household chores I possibly can, so that my wife, who's still working, can just come home and essentially have nothing to do. So I cook, and I do the dishes, I do the laundry, I do the cleaning, you know, stuff like that, which, you know, is for me not unenjoyable. And so every night I do the dishes, and when I do the dishes, I put my headphones on and I listen to, I guess, what I would call 2000s era hard rock. So it's a lot of really loud music, Tool, Rage Against the Machine, and so as a technicality, that's probably what I listen to the most, because that's an almost daily occurrence. Something about really loud, angry-sounding music just goes well with doing the dishes, and it's a great kind of stress relief too. Prompt 4: what is something you need to get better at? Patience. This is a lifelong project for me. I am an inherently impatient human being. In part, I come from a family of impatient people. By the way, this will have some impact on an answer I give later, and maybe it's the next question, I can't remember. But I really struggle with patience, and I work on it, and I try to be more patient. And you know, the horrible thing about being an impatient person is you're usually impatient with the people you love the most, because they're the people who are around you the most. And they're the people who, when you do become impatient, when my grip on and my ability to control my impatience breaks down, of course, they're the people around. And that means that I have to do a lot of apologizing for being impatient. Question 5: do you set goals? What are your goals for the end of the year, next year? I don't set a lot of goals, but I do have a goal to finish my manuscript of my World War II military unit history by January, so that I can begin making inquiries about to publishers of military history. And so again, if you have suggestions about publishing houses that specialize in military history, please leave those in the comments below. I don't have any goals for next year other than not to get COVID. That's one of my goals, I guess, every year, even though it feels, increasingly inevitable. Prompt 6, when was the last time you lost your temper? So going back to the impatient thing, I have what you would call a choleric temperament. I am easily irritated, and since I'm easily irritated, that's, I think, a part of my impatience, and that's what requires me to apologize a lot. So when was the last time you lost your temper? If you mean like lost my temper in the sense that I was capable of doing physical violence, I don't remember. One of the benefits, I think, of having my temperament is that I have to be aware of it, or I am aware of it all the time. And so when I do kind of have these bouts of temper, I usually quickly get myself back under control. So it depends on what you mean by lost your temper. Just got angry? Well, probably 25 minutes ago. I was angry because I don't know, I dropped the dog food scoop in the pantry, and I had to like root around the back of the pantry to find it. That made me angry. You see what I'm saying with the choleric kind of temperament. Prompt 7, do you swear too much? Okay, so both David and Steve Donahue gave really kind of interesting answers about this, and the idea that certain people swear too much. And what I would say is, yes, certain people swear too much. I don't think that's me, but certain people swear too much. And I actually think that swearing is kind of a talent. Knowing when to put in a curse word and when to leave one out is a talent. And I do have a tendency to think of, curse words as kind of spice to a conversation, kind of that little jolt of pepper or something like that you put into a conversation. It's a little bit of seasoning that helps you kind of create a mood in the things that you're saying. And so I don't have any problem with people cursing or doing it myself, but I would agree with David and Steve that if it's something you're just constantly, everything you say, every third sentence has a curse word in it, well, then you're kind of losing what I think is the beauty of cursing. You're losing kind of the thing that makes it an intriguing part of our language, I think. I think that well used, it can be a really brilliant thing. So I don't have a problem with it. I don't think I curse too much, even though I probably do. I do swear a bit, not usually on YouTube. By the way, also I do think that knowing when to swear and when you can swear is important. Swearing makes some people uncomfortable, and I think if you're just in a general audience population, you should probably curb your, swearing. Not because swearing is immoral, but because it makes other people uncomfortable, and therefore if you're doing it, knowing it makes people uncomfortable, you are being intentionally rude. And so I think you need to know your audience when you're swearing, which I think, again, is the one reason why I don't really swear here on YouTube. Prompt 8, do you spend too much money on shoes? No, I have 3 pairs of shoes. I have a pair of dress shoes, I have a pair of tennis shoes that I go walking in, and I have an old pair of boots, which I used to wear to work. And I probably had that pair of boots for 5 years. The tennis shoes, I get a new pair of tennis shoes about every year, and the dress shoes I almost never wear. So I literally have 3 pairs of shoes. And I do not spend too much money on shoes. For whatever reason, shoes, I just don't care. A while back, my kids told me that I shouldn't wear white tennis shoes because it made me look like an old man nerd, and I think white tennis shoes may now be what you're supposed to wear anyway. So I look like an old man nerd wearing black tennis shoes now. But I don't really pay that much attention to it. Somebody tells me I look goofy, and I go, okay, well, I'll buy this color shoes. Prompt 9, what is the worst book you've ever read? Well, it's I think the worst book I've ever read is this book, which is called Killing John Wayne, which I read for the purpose of reviewing, and it kind of qualifies for all the things I think can make a book bad. The writing's bad, the organization is bad, the language is cliched, and the book doesn't actually do what it said it was going to do. So that would be, I guess, the worst book I've ever read. And notice here I didn't mention any Thomas Hardy novels. as a part of that. Prompt 11, do you take naps? I'm 54 years old and I'm retired. I get up at about 5:30 every morning unwillingly because my dogs have decided that's the time to wake me up, and I don't go to bed until around 11:30 or midnight, which means at night I get about 5.5 hours of sleep, and I make up that sleep by taking involuntary, spontaneous, glorious naps during the course of the day, and I make no apologies. It's awesome, and I feel better, and it's just really peaceful. So I probably take 2 20 to 30 minute naps every single day. Prompt 12, have you ever been to Minnesota, the greatest state in the Union? I won't argue about whether or not Minnesota is the greatest state in the Union, but I have been to Minnesota. I went to Minnesota to the Minnesota State Historical Society in St. Paul to do some research. I had written an article which appeared in the Minnesota Historical Journal of History, I believe, or Historical Quarterly, and I got permission and I asked if I could come up and do some research, and I did some research in the library there. The people there were very nice to me. I didn't get to see a lot of Minnesota at the time that I did that. My son was just an infant, and my son and my wife came with me, and we flew to Minnesota, and then we rented a car and we drove south from Minnesota to Iowa to visit with my wife's grandparents. One set of grandparents lived in Dubuque, and her grandmother lived in Newton, Iowa, and so we did that, and then I guess we flew home from somewhere. Anyway, I can't even remember. That's how old I am. But yes, Minnesota was lovely, and everybody there seemed really nice, and I would not mind going back there or even considering relocating once, climate change makes Minnesota more temperate and has less cold winters. Prompt 13, have you ever tried to emulate someone? Yes, I have. As a teenager, I think, as probably the time where most likely try to emulate someone. I wanted to be like John Cusack in the movie The Sure Thing. I saw that movie in high school, and I don't know why I thought that John Cusack's character was so cool, or somebody I wanted to be, but I started dressing like that, and what that meant, generally speaking, was that I had a pair of green army pants that I wore with a t-shirt and a jacket sometimes, and then I had like a sports jacket and a long sleeve button down shirt, and I would roll. You've seen, if you've lived through the 80s, you've seen this. And I rolled the sleeves of the shirt up so that they were on the outside of the sports jacket sleeves, and then I pushed those up. And yeah, I did that for a while. So, ironically, John Cusack is one of my favorite actors. And I used to follow him on Twitter, and we actually got involved in a Twitter kind of exchange at one point, and I guess I was a part of a subsidiary conversation which irritated him, and so he blocked me. So one of my favorite actors blocked me on Twitter. Prompt 14, what is the worst food you've ever eaten? Cucumbers. Prompt 15, do you enjoy bars? What kind are you or have you been a regular at one? Okay, I enjoy bars, but I didn't grow up I grew up in a community where you could not sell alcohol. Restaurants couldn't sell alcohol. There were no bars in the community I grew up in. And I live in a suburban community with really strict zoning laws. So there are, I believe, in the town where I live, I believe there's exactly one bar, and it's not conveniently located. Also, I would say that since I grew up before and have really never gotten used to the concept of Uber, I know that's ridiculous. Going to a bar involves driving, and if you go to a bar, you go to drink, and therefore you're in danger of drinking driving, which I just, well, from personal experiences, I think it's just one of the worst things that human beings can do. So I irregularly spend time in bars, so I don't think I would say I've ever been a regular at a bar. For a while, before COVID, my wife and I would call into a pizza place a pizza place that has a bar, and we would go to that pizza place, and we'd order a pizza to go, and while we were there, we'd sit down and have a drink, sometimes two, depending on how slow the pizza ovens were operating, and we became kind of known there, I guess, but that kind of ended thanks to COVID. And the bars I like best would be bars where I could sit outside and drink a beer or something like that with friends. Sitting outside and drinking a beer is, I don't know why, but that's something that I enjoy. So bars with outdoor seating would be good. Bars with a variety of beers, but not so many that I have to make a decision out of 142. But a nice selection of, let's say, 10 to 20, that would be great. I don't want there to be a dance floor. I don't want there to be really loud music. I want it to be relatively simple, kind of like an English pub. My wife and I, when we went to London, we stayed in an inn which had a pub on the ground floor, and that was really nice because you could go down and have a drink or two whenever you wanted to, and then you were right there where you were staying. So that kind of thing is what I'd like. I'd love to live someplace where there was a bar within walking distance where I could become a regular, because I think I would enjoy that to a certain extent. Let's see, prompt 16, have you ever been hungover? Yes. By the way, I have two hangover cures. Both of them are preventative, or one of them is preventative and one of them is after the fact. The hangover cure that is preventative is probably the most obvious, and that's just to drink as much water as you drink alcohol. Well, not in quantity, but you know what I mean. Hangovers primarily. The headache of a hangover is caused by dehydration, and if you take care of your hydration issues, then you should probably have less of a headache. And then if you are hungover, I would suggest eating the greasiest, spiciest thing you think you can hold down. That has, in the past, when I was a much heavier drinker than I am now, that worked for me. Prompt 17, when was the last time you laughed out loud while reading? I'm reading Get a Life, Chloe Brown right now as part of my effort to read outside my comfort zone, reading a romance, and there were lines and situations which made me, let's say, chuckle out loud. So I would say that. Prompt 18, how would you label or describe yourself politically? I guess I'm either a progressive or a socialist. David's head just exploded when I said that. Increasingly, I prefer socialism. I firmly believe that our government is supposed to be doing things to make the lives of people in the United States better. It's right there in the preamble of the Constitution. We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare. It's literally in the preamble of the Constitution that part of what the government's supposed to be doing is promoting the general welfare. To me, that means government provided health care insurance. That means paid time off for families. That means, looking to make sure that wages are fair and that working conditions are fair. And that's a fair amount of progressivism, which goes close enough to socialism. I prefer socialism to capitalism. Both of them are, since they're isms, both of them are essentially utopian, ideas about how to economically achieve the best for society. Capitalism emphasizes efficiency over compassion, and I think socialism emphasizes compassion over efficiency. And I'm going to go with compassion. I don't mind a little bit of economic waste if it means that fewer people are suffering. I guess that's where I come down on that issue, but that's me. Prompt 19, what was the last movie you watched? I watched An American Christmas Carol starring Henry Winkler. It is an adaptation of Dickens' A Christmas Carol, and it was really, really bad. Prompt 20, do you want kids? Do you wish you had kids? If you had kids, give a piece of advice. Well, 54, I have two kids who are in their 20s. My daughter is married. My piece of advice then would be that what matters is time. For a while back in the 80s, people talked about quality time, that it didn't matter how much time you spent with your kids as long as the time you spent with them was quality time. If you ask me, that puts a tremendous amount of pressure on those events when you spend with your kids, and it means that you're not just relaxing and hanging out. And I will tell you that from my point of view, and my kids may think this is exactly the opposite, but from my point of view, that what mattered was time. Spending as much time as I could spend as a person, as a working person, as a person who does need their private time, spending as much time in just being there in the silly, goofy, boring, sometimes tedious moments, that time is what kind of creates that bond, and to me that's what's most important. Prompt 21, Do you get along with your siblings? I have one sister, and we get along. We're not the closest of siblings, but I think that's getting better as we get older. My sister is a wonderful and accomplished and incredibly intelligent person, much smarter than I am, who has still works as a teacher and has raised two brilliant daughters, and there's no reason why we shouldn't be in contact more often, so I'm hoping that can be true moving forward. Prompt 22, what is a book you have serious issues with but love? A book I have serious issues with but love. This is where I didn't really spend much time preparing my answer, so I'm not sure that I know I have a good answer for you. And I'm not sure even if I thought about it, I would be able to think of a good answer. So I'm just going to go with, I'll go with Hemingway's posthumously published novel, Islands in the Stream. The first section of that, and I say this all the time, the first section of that, which is titled Bimini, I believe, I think is really good. And Hemingway, close to his best. It has been a long time since we read it. The rest of Islands in the Stream is kind of trash, to be honest with you. And Hemingway was beyond his sell-by date by the time. Zelda is no Hemingway fan, by the way. Hey, that's enough. That's enough. Ike, that's enough. Anyway, so that would be my choice for a book that I love but have problems with. Let's see. Prompt 24, what is your favorite theme song to a movie and or a TV show? That would be the song The Gale, which is a part of the Last of the Mohicans soundtrack. I love that song. I love that tune so much that I kind of taught myself to play a rudimentary version of it on the guitar, which I do from time to time when I get kind of obsessed with a song or a piece of music. I sometimes try to pick it out, just to pick out the melody on my guitar until I can play it with some proficiency. Prompt 24, do you like your job? If you switch careers, what would you do? I like my job because I'm retired, and I guess technically what I'm doing is writing, even though I'm not writing for pay. Prompt 25, what is something you love about the city you live in? So I live in a small suburban community south of Houston in Texas. And when Hurricane Harvey hit our community, actually the community where I lived got more than 60 inches of rain over the course of a 3 or 4 day period. And there was severe flooding. I'm really lucky to have lived in a neighborhood which didn't get any flooding. Now, we were completely cut off. The neighborhood I live in was kind of like an island surrounded by water, and there were other neighborhoods like that. But since Harvey just kind of hung around, the water kind of came and went. In the early days of Harvey, we were able to get out and help. And one of the things that I loved about this community was that despite a real conservatism and a lot of Trump support here, people just came out and literally just got in trucks and in groups, went around to complete strangers' houses and helped them remove the carpet, which had been flooded, remove the furniture, help them do whatever they could to get their houses back to being more livable. And I did that for 2 or 3 days, and that was really good. A real sense of community, and so I like that. And then